Hello everyone, my name's Frank and I'm glad that you're here. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to make you feel like a secret agent or James Bond by showing you some security things that we can do in order to go onto the internet and browse both anonymously as well as securely without a trace of where we've been or what we've done. Now to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to install the Tails operating system onto a USB key. We're going to boot from that USB key, go into an Onion network, and then use the Tor browser in order to surf the internet. Now, what are these words coming out of Frank's mouth? Don't worry, I'll explain them. What happens is when we use a regular computer, we're using hardware, and anything we do with that hardware leaves behind an artifact of the activities we were engaged in. So if we save a file, that obviously is saved to the hard drive of the computer, but even if we're doing something that takes place in memory, we often have a paging file that is used to swap memory in and out, and even when we turn off the computer, well, the memory is completely erased, the RAM, we still have artifacts left behind in the paging file, which we can go into and we can see what was there, so we can reconstruct some of the things that you were doing on the computer. But by installing an operating system onto a USB drive, we have physical possession of the USB drive, but beyond that, if we load from the USB drive into memory and we run the operating system in memory without touching the hardware of the computer or without putting anything back onto the USB drive, when that computer is turned off, all traces of our activity disappear. Now, that operating system is called Tails. Now, once we're in that Tails operating system, that secure operating system, we can then connect up to a secure network called the Onion network. And this is a multi-layered network, and it basically, instead of keeping track of source and destination, it creates a sort of a obscurity of source and destination by having the source computer go through a specialized gateway and having the destination computer having no idea of what the source was. So this is a secure network that is, as the name implies, multi-layered in order to prevent you from being tracked while you're on the internet. And the browser that we use to do that is called the Tor browser. So this combination of a Tails operating system that we boot from in a USB key, the Onion network that we connect to using that system, and the Tor browser running on that Onion network creates an incredibly secure and anonymous system that allows us to go on the internet. And this has been used by many different places in order to provide really secure communication. Now, I will put a caveat in here. If you go and use the secure Tails operating system, and you use the secure Onion network, and you use the secure Tor browser, you go to Facebook and you log in, well, everybody knows who you are, right? Because you just logged into Facebook. So it's very important to not only have secure hardware environment software, but it's also important to have secure security practices to understand what you're doing on the internet could give a clue as to who you are. So if you visit, for example, your personal website, or if you go and, try to access your Microsoft Office account, this will all be tracked. And that is normal because for security and authentication, that needs to be tracked. But let's go have a look at how we can install Tails on a USB key, connect to the Onion network, launch the Tor browser, and be secure and anonymous on the internet. Of course, the first thing that we're going to need to install Tails is the operating system itself. So you can go to tails.boum.org/install, and this actually will walk you through the installation as well. So if you rather see a text-based version of this, you can just follow their tutorials, in which case, thank you for watching this far. But if we go in here, you can see that we can install Tails by using a Windows machine, a Mac OS, or a Linux machine. Or we can download image files such as a USB image, an ISO image for DVDs, and even install an ISO image. Oh, I didn't want to do that. We can install the ISO image on a virtual machine. Now, any time that we're using something like a virtual machine, we have to remember that that's living on top of an operating system that's running on our computer. So I would say that this is potentially a little bit less secure. I would rather run it and install it directly from a USB. Now, when I look at Windows, Mac, or Linux, that doesn't mean it's going to run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'm just going to use that operating system in order to install Tails. So I'll use a Windows machine to do this. And what I'm going to do is I can either install from another instance of Tails, which I don't have. So I'm going to download and install. What I need is a USB stick with 8 gigs. It's going to be about an hour to download it and about half an hour to install it. Okay, and in this case here, when it says 1 USB stick and 1 hour to download, it'll depend on a few things like your internet connection and stuff, but let's go ahead and grab that copy. So here we go, we've got everything here that's going to be required, and you'll notice that it's asks you to have a smartphone or another computer in order to do this, and that's because what's going to happen is you're going to boot off of the USB stick. And what's going to happen is when you boot off that USB stick, it's going to put the program into memory. So you're not going to have access to the underlying operating system that's normally there. So let's go ahead and grab that copy from Windows. And I'm now going to download the image for Tails. So now I'm downloading the image from Tails, and we'll continue on from here. Okay, so I've downloaded Tails. And one of the things you want to do is you want to verify that download. So I'm going to go in and verify it, and we'll go into my downloads. And we'll go in and we'll verify that installation of Tails. Now, verifying is a good idea because it just means that you got a good download, that you didn't accidentally download a version that hasn't been digitally signed. So we're going in to make sure that we have the right one. Okay, it's just finishing the verification, and lucky us, we now have Tails ready to go. Now, one of the things I'm going to have to do is, like I said, I'm going to have to boot this computer, and it's going to boot off of the USB drive in order to run Tails within the memory. So it's going to be quite interesting here, but let's continue on. So this might sound a little odd, but the way that we install Tails is by using Tails to install Tails. So what we have to do first is we're going to take a USB stick and we're going to plug it into our computer, and everything on that USB stick is going to be gone. And what we're going to do is we're going to install a copy of Tails on that USB stick, but then what we're going to do is we're going to boot from that version of Tails where we can install Tails on another USB stick. So we have a little program here called Etcher, and we'll grab Etcher for Windows. And then what we'll do is once we download, it's a very quick download. When we grab that file, it's going to go in and allow us, I'll just open up the Etcher file here. Been tested for viruses by my antivirus here, but we'll go in here. I'm going to plug in a USB drive into my computer. So I have a little small 32 gig USB drive. It doesn't have to be that big, but that's the only size that I have here. And in here, I'm going to flash from a file. So we're going to flash from a file where I'm going to go back to my downloads, and I'm going to go in and choose that downloaded Tails that I have. So now I have that here. So I'm going to flash from the file, and then we'll select our target, which is going to be the USB. So make sure I don't choose my external hard drive. We'll just do the little 32 gig. So make sure you know which one that is. So I'm going to select that, and boom, we're now going to turn that into Tails. We'll accept the security warning, and off we go. It takes a little while to go through, but it'll go fairly quickly. Okay, so it's gone in, it's done the flash of the USB drive, it's now validating it. And now the trickier part comes up. I'm going to have to reboot my system off of that USB drive, and then we'll be able to go in and start the installation of Tails. So you notice a few seconds ago that I had a failed problem with the little USB flash. So what I did is I just went back and reflashed it. And now what we're seeing is we're seeing my laptop, and I have to film it this way because we have to restart the computer. So what I'm going to do is if I just press the start button, if you just press the start button here, and you can go in and hold shift. And while you hold shift, if you hit the power button, you can go ahead and do a restart. And hold down the shift key while you do that. So if I go in here, I can use a device to boot from. I'm going to go in, and you'll notice I have a lot of different devices I can go from, but I'm going to boot from a USB storage device. So if I go to the USB storage device here, this will now be that external USB key that I have where I've installed Tails. So it's going to start booting up off of that. Okay, so now my computer is booting to Tails, and it's not the fastest operating system you're going to get on your computer because it is booting off of that USB drive, and it is putting it into memory. And this is a good thing because what happens is you won't be in a situation where any persistent information that you're using will reside on your computer. So there's nothing that's going to be stored in a paging file. There's nothing that's going to be stored on the actual hard drive of this computer. So if I choose language here, so I can choose my language as English, whatever I want to do here, I can configure it, and I'll hit Start Tails. Okay, so now what I've done is I've gone in, and if you go up to the Wi-Fi in the corner, you can connect to a Wi-Fi network. Once you're connected to the Wi-Fi network, I'll go back to the Tor browser here. Still waiting for that network to be started, so we're just going to give it a little bit longer. Okay, so now at the top you see Tor is ready. If I go into applications here, again to the Tor browser, now I won't get that message that says it's not ready. It'll open up the Tor browser, and I'll be able to go onto the internet. So the steps there are pretty straightforward. Now there are some other things you can do. For example, you can create persistent storage on your system. I don't like to do that because persistent storage is always a point of security risk. But anyways, there you go. I hope you enjoyed installing Tails on your system. Well, I hope you found that interesting. And now that you've got Tails installed on this USB key, you can boot any computer, pretty much any computer, using this. So for example, I created this in the demonstration on my Windows computer, but I can quite easily grab my Mac computer, and all I'll do is in fact I have it right here, I'll just install the USB, put it in there, and when I boot my Mac, I'll press the Option key. That will allow me to select the startup disk, and it'll go right into Tails, load it into memory, so on and so forth. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like and comment down below. But remember, when you comment down below, you can be traced. Well, that's a good thing though. Anyways, everybody knows who I am, so comment down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Here's some other ones you can watch.